All right, so Ohio State loses to Miami. They just scored. Literally right now, as I'm recording this, they just scored. So game's over. It sucks. This was gonna be it. And congratulations to all the Miami fans and Miami and everybody. It's just it's unfortunate. Um, it is what it is. Uh, Jaden Fielding missing that field goal cost Ohio State the game. Honestly, if Fielding makes that field goal, it's 24-17. And obviously Miami takes it all the way down probably and just kicks a game-winning field goal anyways. But at least it gives Ohio State a chance. No, that would have been. No, yeah, it would have been 17-17. So yeah, but Miami probably still wins this game regardless. The pick six, it was the straw that broke the camel's back, and Fielding missing the extra point just put the nail in the coffin. So it sucks. There's not a lot to say. Carson Beck played amazing. He might get drafted now. There was very much a consensus that Beck was not going to get drafted. He was probably going to be an unrestricted free agent, kind of like where Drew Aller is. If he does this well against Georgia or Ole Miss, Tate just dropped the pass. So, Tate did not have a great game today. Sane really didn't target him as much, but it sucks that Tate is going to go out like this. He's got no more eligibility left. It sucks. I think Ohio State kind of got caught looking ahead to Georgia, most likely, and it cost them. And maybe they were, like I said at halftime, maybe they thought that A&M would beat Miami, so they didn't really have to study him as hard. Maybe they studied A&M harder than they did Miami, and that's a problem on coaching. Sayin throws an interception, game over. But it is what it is. Congratulations to Miami. They were completely the better team, and the ACC just proved a lot of doubters wrong. And the ACC as a conference needs to fix their tiebreakers, because if Miami plays like this, and that's the thing with the playoff, you get hot, you can make a run. And if Miami would have played another game in the ACC title and probably beat Virginia, because Virginia was the higher seed. So if Miami would have played Duke, imagine a hot Miami team going into Texas A&M and then going and playing Ohio State. This game probably is worse. So the ACC's probably got to fix that. Everyone was talking about how it's been the worst it's been for years, and Miami comes out and beats the consensus number one team for the majority of the regular season, the number two team in the country, the former number two team in the country, I should say. And it sucks. And Ryan Day is 0-2 against Mario Cristobal. If anyone does not know, Cristobal came into Columbus when he was coaching Oregon in 2021 and beat Ryan Day. Now he beats Ryan Day in the Cotton Bowl. And for the and this is yet again, I feel it's a repeat almost of the Cotton Bowl from 2023 with, I'm going to turn this TV off because I'm not going to watch them celebrate. But it's almost a repeat of the 2023 Cotton Bowl with Mizzou. Mizzou capitalized on a lot of Ohio State's mistakes. Ohio State struggles offensively, and that was it. Mizzou did not dominate Ohio State on the offensive, on the lines of scrimmage, really. It was on both sides of the ball, which I did not think that was going to happen. I thought Miami would have the advantage on the defensive side of the ball, their defensive line versus Ohio State's O-line. Ohio State's O-line is just bad. But But I thought Ohio State would be able to hold their own and hold their water at the point of attack on the defensively. And that's just not what happened today. There was a few drives there where Ohio State was getting pushed, but it felt like Ohio State to get that stop on the Miami second to last drive of the game, to get that stop, kind of emptied the gas tank a little bit. And when Ohio State had to punt, that was it. That was it. And they had nothing left in the tank. If Caleb Downs does go to the draft and does not come back, which I'm assuming there's a 95% chance that he's leaving, that sucks that he's going out on that. He was yelling at people in the huddle. I think a few plays before Miami scored. Sorry, my voice is kind of going out. I've been screaming. But a few plays before Miami eventually did score, you saw him yelling at like guys like Jermaine Matthews and those people. And it's unfortunate, and that's his last game, and guys like Luke Montgomery and Carnell Tate and Max Clare, who's only here for a year, but I think he's probably gone after this year. Lorenzo Styles, Sonny Styles are both gone. I think Lorenzo's out of eligibility. Sonny Styles is a fifth-year senior, so he's out of eligibility as well. But a lot of those guys on defense are going to leave, and Ohio State and Matt Patricia and Ryan Day are got to figure out what they want to do in terms of recruiting and in the portal defensively. Because if you're losing, Igbinosun is also gone after this year as well. If you're losing a lot of people, especially in the secondary, and this is just secondary, I'm not even talking off defensive line. All of those guys are gone. Curry's out of eligibility. I think McDonald's out of eligibility. Arvell Reese I don't think is out of eligibility, but I think he's going to be a top 3 pick this year, so he'll be gone. Kenyatta Jackson, I think, is also out of eligibility. There was a lot of veterans on that offensive or defensive line, so they're probably all gone. Obviously, it's going to have to reload at that position for the second straight year. Of course, Jack Sawyer, JTT, Ty Hamilton, and what was the other one? I'm blanking on the other one. Maybe there was only the 3 that left. I could have sworn there was 4 that left last year. Oh, well. Anyways, it sucks. And it's unfortunate that that was the last game. That was it. That was Ohio State's last game of the year. And I don't think any Ohio State fan expected that. But that's the playoff. Ohio State did that to a lot of teams last year. Oregon was expected to make a run. Ohio State blew them out. Tennessee really wasn't expected to make a run, but Texas was eventually got. They were eliminated in the second to last round, but still, they were a national championship threat. And it is what it is, and congratulations to Miami. Obviously, I'm sad, and this is the best time of the year for me. When football season, Ohio State and Browns are both on, that is the best time of year for me. The Browns, I didn't realize that Ohio State was going to be done this early, so I thought I had maybe a week or 2 left of Ohio State football. But that's the game though now. So you got to take this on the chin. And who knows? Maybe even Caleb Downs comes back, and a bunch of people a bunch of key players that are eligible for the draft this year maybe come back because of this game. If Ohio State would have made a run and maybe lost in like the semifinal or the national championship, or even won the national championship this year, then all of them were probably leaving. The fact that they lost to Miami and the way that they lost to Miami, maybe that convinces them to stay. I know a lot of those veterans really want a Big Ten championship. That obviously didn't happen. Indiana beat Ohio State, and they wanted a run at the playoff. That playoff run is now over. So there's always next year. Ohio State has been chasing, to beat Michigan, win the Big Ten championship, and win a national title all in the same year. And they have not been able to do that since 2014. Ohio State is still, as a program, is still chasing their first ever undefeated national title season in the playoff era. Michigan has done it. Bama has done it. Georgia has done it. Clemson has done it. Those are the only teams. LSU, sorry. LSU has also done it. But those are the only ones. And, Ohio State has won 2 national championships, but they've lost games in those years. Of course, in 2014, Ohio State lost to Virginia Tech. And last year, they lost to Oregon and Michigan. So they're still chasing that in the playoff era. They still have not had an undefeated season in the playoff era. And, we got a lot of people coming back, especially on the offense. You got, of course, Jeremiah Smith and Julian Sayin. Sayin did not have a good game today. He looked very confused. But I think this game right here and the Indiana game is going to help him in his development. I think his inexperience kind of caught him at very, very key moments in the season. I think the fact that Ohio State did not go through any pressure or anything like that up until, maybe you can make an argument for the first quarter of the Michigan game, but after that it was all Ohio State. And, there was never a consistent point in the season where Ohio State was struggling and Ohio State was down and it looked like their backs were against the wall. And when that happened, they looked extremely uncomfortable. And you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And Ohio State, especially offensively, was not that. Jeremiah Smith did everything he could to win this game. We left 6 to 10 points on the board today, and we lost by 10. So that's what it is. Sayin throws the pick 6. That's a 7 to 3 point difference right there in that one play that shifts right there. Maybe Miami still forces a turnover because Ohio State also did that. So I know a lot of Miami fans are going to be like, well, you turned us over in the red zone. Cool, we can have those kind of cancel out. Miami still scores the 7 points there, though. So they still have that advantage. If I would have told you that Miami would have won the turnover battle today and Carson Beck threw no picks, you would say Miami won. Miami wins by, I don't even know, because if Ohio State loses the turnover battle, I think probably people still say they probably still eke out a win. Instead, Miami wins, and Miami dominates up front, and that's how you beat Ohio State. Is you dominate up front, you limit possessions, and that's exactly what they did. And you capitalize on Ohio State's mistakes, especially in the first half. That's exactly what Miami did. So congratulations to Miami. That's a really, really good job, and they're hot. They can make a run. They could win the national championship this year. And I'm rooting for, as Ohio State being out now, obviously, I'm rooting for Indiana, and I'm rooting for Miami. If Miami can win, that's really good. Especially for them, not having any type of success really since Ohio State beat them in the national championship. But Ohio State's got to take this on the cheek. I'm sure some players that are getting ready to do press conferences here in a little bit, they're gonna probably take some shots at Jeremiah Smith, and they got to take that for 365 days. They got to take that. This score will maybe this Ohio State loss can kind of propel them like 2019's Clemson loss did. I'm not as devastated as that loss. I definitely think that Clemson 2019 loss was probably the worst loss I've ever had as an Ohio State fan. But maybe Ohio State can kind of do what they did and put that on their wall, that they did in 2020, the COVID year. They put 25-21 all over the practice facility, all over their fields, their the weight rooms, all that stuff. And maybe they do that again, and that would be motivation for this season. Ohio State's got to hit the portal for maybe another receiver. I know Chris Henry Jr. is coming in, but you also I know Cam Coleman had just hit the portal, so that would be a really good get for Ohio State to kind of have another. And Cam Coleman, I wouldn't say is an alien. He hasn't at least shown that yet. Last year, Ohio State had Emeka Egbuka, Carnell Tate, and Jeremiah Smith. This year, the only aliens on this team were Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. So honestly, this was a rebuild year for Ohio State's wide receiver room, and maybe some of that, maybe some of that drops off with Hartline leaving, but you never really know. We'll see what happens in the transfer portal. Ohio State's definitely got to hit offensive line and defensive line. They got to develop, and I know with Justin Fry being gone, that is going to help not only recruiting but also development, because he was not a very good recruiter or developer. Justin Fry, I'm talking about, Ohio State's former offensive line coach, if anyone does not know who that is. But, that's again and again and again, that is exactly what held Ohio State back this year, was, Justin Fry not doing a good enough job, and Ryan Day not basically firing him after, let's say, 2023, which I probably think that he should have been fired. He got, the national championship last year and went to the NFL. And good on him. He got a big paycheck. I don't know if he's still in Arizona because they kind of suck right now. But, you never know. I don't really keep up with him. But that loss, it came out of nowhere. I could kind of feel something, but, it was... I'm always anxious and I'm always nervous for games like these. So, that it was what it was, and as soon as Ohio State threw that pick six, I kind of felt like, okay, Miami's probably going to win this game, but Ohio State still got a shot. And Ohio State blew it, and Ohio State blew their shot. And, that's going to suck. But congratulations to all the Miami fans. I feel like Georgia is probably a good a winner for this as well. If they beat Miami, that's huge, because I think probably Georgia has a better matchup against Miami than they did Ohio State. Georgia's secondary has been, not very good, and Georgia as a team has been very streaky. So if they can get by Ole Miss and Miami is waiting for them, I think I'd probably pick Georgia, but Miami could definitely pull off that upset. Obviously, they just beat Ohio State. So, maybe this is a playoff rivalry. And this is like a thing that Miami, it consistently gets the playoff, and so does Ohio State, and they match up every once in a while. That would be really cool to have. But that is it for the rest of the season. Ohio State, they go 12-0. They beat Michigan. They fall short in the Indiana game in the Big Ten Championship, and they fall short again a month later against the Miami Hurricanes in the Cotton Bowl. I can't say that I'm not disappointed. This was definitely, as far as rebuilds go at Ohio State, I think this was probably more of a rebuild year. But the fact that Ohio State got this far and was this good for that long and had the best defense in the country, and basically a rebuild year, is really good for Ohio State. And, it is what it is, and, you just got to move on, take notes, and just get better. And Ryan Day is going to learn from this. Jeremiah Smith's going to learn from this. Julian Sain better learn from this. Because if he doesn't, and he looks just as shell-shocked and snake-bitten as he did in these last two games next year, that's going to be an issue. And Ohio State's not going to do anything if Julian Sain does not, perform like he performed against lower quality teams against the higher quality teams, if that makes sense, I don't know if that did, but I'm basically saying if Julian Sain does not perform well against higher quality teams, then that's an issue, especially in his second year, where he will probably be, if Ohio State does do well and Julian Sain is back in the Heisman contention, he will probably leave. And if he doesn't, he'll probably transfer out, and Ohio State will be back with another quarterback. Regardless, I think in 2 years, Ohio State will be having another quarterback. This is no hate on Julian Sain whatsoever. He's a kid. This is his first year starting at a program where fans and coaches and even your teammates expect perfection out of you. And it's not what we got tonight. It's not what we got in the Big Ten Championship game, and fans are going to come for him, and that is what it is. I said this before, I'll say it again. If I am sending people death threats and showing up to people's houses and calling them and spamming them and telling them to do horrible things, I need to rethink my life choices, and everyone that is doing that should rethink their life choices. So I'm not one of those Ohio State fans that is going to find Julian Sayin and Jaden Fielding's number and call them and sell them how much they suck and how much that they should just transfer and how they should never play a snap of football again and how they should do whatever. And, those people just have no life, and I don't want to say live in your mom's basement because I'm clearly in a basement right now. So it's kind of, counter. I don't know if counterintuitive is the right word, but I'm gonna go with it. So, that was just me, a little bit of a ramble there. Beck played really good. Their running back, I forget his name, but he played amazing today. Their offensive line played amazing today. Their defense made plays when they needed them, and Ohio State didn't make the plays when they needed them, and that was the difference in the game. So, congratulations to Miami. Hope you guys make a run. Hopefully you guys beat Georgia, because I cannot handle another Georgia national championship. Hopefully Indiana makes a run, and maybe we can have an Indiana versus Miami national championship. I think that would be really cool. I just don't know if Carson Beck is going to be able to play consistent enough like that. But, Miami's just got to win one more game, and they're there. So anything could really happen, especially in this playoff. But now we got to really start having conversations like, is the buys good, or would you prefer to play in the first round? Because now that's a real thing. With Ohio State losing tonight, that also continues the streak of teams with the bye have not won a game yet. So, and obviously we can use, the teams that did not have a bye last year were clearly better. Notre Dame played a Georgia team that lost their quarterback in the SEC championship game that year. Penn State played Boise State. Ohio State played Oregon, and Ohio State got on top of them really quickly, and Oregon just couldn't recover from that. And then Texas played Arizona State, and Arizona State just couldn't keep up with Texas's talent advantage, even though they almost did. They took Texas to overtime that year, and they gave them everything that they could handle. But I'm just rambling on far too much now. But yeah, it's off to basketball season when we got the Cavs, who are obviously disappointing right now, and we got Ohio State basketball, which hopefully it's starting off. I've checked a few scores and watched a few games, but hopefully we can get to March Madness, something we have not done in, I think, like 4 or 5 years. As Ohio State's men's basketball, that is. Women's basketball has made the tournament, I think, 2 years in a row, 3 years in a row, something like that. But, it sucks. I'm hurt, but you just got to pick yourself up and move on. So that will be it for Ohio State reactions. That's kind of sad to say, but that's going to do it. Thank you guys for supporting me this entire season. If you guys have watched all of these videos, I really, really appreciate it. But until next season, go Bucks.